Tyler from Aspire Sports, and in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down wide receivers 1 through 10 for the upcoming fantasy football season. Tomorrow's video is going to be 11 through 20, so make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all of our latest videos that will help you win your fantasy football leagues. Also, we are starting a Dynasty League. This is the second one. There are 6 spots available, so if you're interested in Dynasty, maybe learning about Dynasty, go ahead and sign up. Totally free. It's over on Sleeper. So with that being said, let's get into the video. Coming in at number 1 is going to be Davante Adams. And I also put Tyreek Hill here, and I'll talk about him as well. I believe that these two guys are going to be your number 1, number 2. So Tyreek Hill, number 2. Davante Adams, number 1. Davante Adams, for me, is just the best wide receiver in the NFL, playing with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's going to probably see 10-plus touchdowns. It's just a touchdown monster. So for me, he's the unanimous number 1. I believe everywhere he's going to be ranked number 1. The only person that might be ranked over him is going to be Tyreek Hill. So leading up to the draft this offseason, as long as these two stay healthy and everything, Mahomes, Rodgers, I believe these two will be the number 1 and number 2 wide receivers taken. Tyreek Hill, I mean, he could go off for like that game he did against Tampa Bay where it was like 200 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, and nobody would be surprised. That's just the type of player that Tyreek Hill is. He's dynamic. He's electric. He's so good. So for those two guys are number 1 and number 2, Davante Adams, Tyreek Hill for me. Coming in at number 3 for me is going to be Stephon Diggs. And basically the top 3 guys who finished this season are the top 3 guys for my rankings, just because I don't see why a whole lot's going to change for Stephon Diggs. He led the league in receptions, targets, yards. Like maybe he doesn't see as many targets because I believe he saw like 166, which is a lot of targets, but he could definitely make up for it in the touchdown where he was number 6 in terms of red zone targets, but only finished as wide receiver number 13 for touchdowns last season. So I believe he can make up for it in that category, maybe lose some targets, receptions, and just make up for it in touchdowns. Plays with Josh Allen. Josh Allen last year was MVP level, and there was a stretch of games where really this offense was not clicking. So to have a full offseason with these two, with the offense, I believe that the sky's the limit. I would not be surprised if Stephon Diggs finishes wide receiver number 1 next season, just because he's a target machine. So with that being said, Stephon Diggs, number 3 for me. Coming in at number 4 is going to be DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins last year finished 2nd in terms of yards, receptions, and targets last year. Why is that going to change? I don't think it's going to change. I know that they just signed A.J. Green, who's like 40 years old and barely plays a full season, hasn't played a full season in quite a while. So I don't expect him to come in and just demand all these targets. I still think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be targeted a ton. And last year, towards the end of the last season, Kyler Murray ended up getting hurting that shoulder, and he was not the same player, and that definitely hurt the passing game a little bit, especially after that injury for the first couple of games. So last year, towards the end of the season, there was a little bit of a down period, and I don't expect that to happen again as long as Kyler Murray's healthy. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be one of the most targeted wide receivers in the NFL, and in fantasy football, volume is king, and that's what you get with DeAndre Hopkins. So coming in at number 4, DeAndre Hopkins. Coming in at number 5 for me is going to be A.J. Brown, and I love A.J. Brown. Last year, he was 5th in terms of fantasy points per game last season. Now, he didn't finish higher than that because he missed a couple of games, but was averaging the 5th most fantasy points. This upcoming season, there are 192 targets up for grabs because there's no longer Adam Humphries, Corey Davis, and Jonnu Smith. He needs to make up for some of those targets. He's probably going to take some of them. You also have Josh Reynolds coming in, but I believe A.J. Brown could get around 130, 140 targets this upcoming season. Ryan Tannehill is a bit underrated. I know this is a team that likes to run the football, but A.J. Brown is a complete stud, and I believe has a chance to finish inside the top 5 at the wide receiver position. So coming in at number 5 for me is A.J. Brown. Coming in at number 6 for me is going to be Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is a complete stud. And like these next group of guys, like the A.J. Brown, Calvin Ridley, and DK Metcalf, like even JJ, like these guys, these young guys, wide receivers, up and coming, are so good. So if you want to put him a little bit higher, go for it. But for me, Calvin Ridley good here just because Julio Jones may play. It's a big may, a big if. If he's able to play more games this upcoming season, it's definitely going to take away some of his targets. He's still very, very good in the red zone where that's where you get your points scored in terms of fantasy football. So he's still very good there, his money. But also, this defense got a lot better as the season progressed, so they might not be in a position where they need to throw the ball constantly. But I still love him as a top 10 guy and a borderline top 5 guy. So Calvin Ridley for me, number 6. Coming in at number 7 is going to be DK Metcalf. And it was like the tale of two halves last year. The first half of the season was so good. He was so electric. It was unsustainable, though. He was averaging like 20 yards per catch, and that just isn't going to happen. And also a ridiculously high touchdown rate. And then second half fell back down to earth, but this offense just kind of stalled out. And that was a big reason why just the second half of the season wasn't as good as the first half for him. But they fired their OC this upcoming season and have a new one. So I believe that's going to help. They also re-signed Chris Carson. Chris Carson back healthy is going to help as well. So this offense is still going to be very good. He still has Russell Wilson as his quarterback. He's going to be the number 1 wide receiver for this offense this upcoming season. So I love DK as a top 10 guy for sure. That's why for right now, he's at wide receiver number 7 for me. Coming in at number 8 for me is going to be Justin Jefferson. Last year had one of the best rookie campaigns as a wide receiver in NFL history. And quite frankly, I feel like he's a little bit too low for me. But it's just, who do you put him over? The only reason why I have him here is because I just don't like it. I like his quarterback the least out of all the quarterbacks that are ahead of him right now, especially the young guys who I believe should be like in the same tier. So for that reason, that's why I have him ranked. If he can get like 130 targets, right, last year I think he was 121. If he can just get right around 130, he's going to finish as a top 5, a borderline top 5 guy. Just because he's incredibly efficient, is a very, very good route runner. So for those reasons, that's why I have him at number 8. If you want to draft him higher than 8, go for it. Justin Jefferson, number 8. Coming in at number 9 for me is going to be Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson last year finished as wide receiver number 12, despite having Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles as quarterback. Now, I know they just signed Andy Dalton, and it doesn't get a whole lot better than those two guys, but it is better, especially in terms of passing. I think he's a better passer than both of them. Andy Dalton is, and especially Mitchell Trubisky, I think he's a better passer. So I think that's only going to help Allen Robinson, especially in terms of fantasy football. I don't think that this offense is going to be a whole lot better than what it was last year, though. I think it's going to be a little bit better. So for those reasons, that's why I have Allen Robinson here, but he's going to be a PPR machine. Definitely finish inside the top 10. So for all those reasons, that's why Allen Robinson comes in at number 9 for me. Coming in at number 10 and rounding out the order is going to be Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen last year was very good with the emergence of Justin Herbert. Last year finished as wide receiver number 5 in terms of targets, and that was missing, I'm going to say, 3 games. That Las Vegas Raiders game, I'm not counting that game. So finished as wide receiver number 5 in terms of targets last season, even though he missed 3 games. That's very good. He's going to be somebody who's just going to be especially in full point PPR, just a PPR machine. He might have some games where he finishes with like 7 catches for 51 yards, but he's definitely going to make up for it in the other games. So for those reasons, I love Keenan Allen as a top 10 guy, especially in full point PPR. And that does it here. If you enjoy this content, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, leave it down in the comments below. And don't forget the Dynasty League. If you still want to get in that Dynasty League, it's down in the description. Thank you for watching the video, and have a great day.